the greatest rivalry in the history of cricket. You may argue India-Pakistan, you may argue Australia-India, you may argue Australia-South Africa has got an edge. England-India have their edge in rivalries. It's intense, it's passionate, but none can match up to the history, none can match up to the hype and the excitement that comes around when the Ashes is around the corner. Just like it's major events like the ICC events, it's held, if you look at it from the Australian context and the England context, for 4 years. 2017, it was held in Australia, 2019 in England, 2021 in Australia, 2023. So, every 2 years, you see cricket's greatest rivalry being played out, one in England, one down under. Now, in 2023, after Australia's success in 2021 when they won 4-0 against England, it's now time for them to resume the 146-year-old history for this peculiar urn. Remember, at the Oval, when Australia played the World Test Championship and they won the first ICC World Test Championship for them, it was symbolic that it had to happen at the Oval, because the Oval was the place where the Ashes was born in 1882. Now, 146 years later, eras have changed, bats have changed, climate has changed, the grounds have changed, but one thing is certain, the hype around Australia versus England has never changed. Heading into 2023, there is a lot at stake. Some Australian players are going to tour England for the very last time, and I'll reveal who those players are in the next slide. But England are in a new era. Bazball, scoring rates are at T20 style. Red ball cricket, nah, the distinctions between red and white ball have been totally blurred. Bazball has revolutionized England in a way, and now we don't care about the term. It's now proper attacking cricket. So, in this way now, we are looking at the situation of Australia trying to counter Bazball. And on the other hand, if you look at it, Australia trying to break 22 years of pain in England. Look at these 5 players. It is for certain that these 5 players will not tour England when the Ashes resumes in 2027, because Steve Smith, he's 34. Now, if he wants to come back in 2027, he'll be 38. Not many Australians play until that period of time. David Warner has already indicated that this is his last Ashes and he will want to retire from Test cricket in February 2024. January 2024, mostly in the Pakistan series. Usman Khwaja, he is also 35. Can he come back in 2027 in England? Highly unlikely. Mitchell Starc is 33. Can he come back in 2027? Looks 50-50. Nathan Lyon, on the other hand, he is also 35. Can he come back at 39 in 2027? So, for these 5 Australian players, they now will want to end 22 years of pain. Remember, 2001 was the last time Australia won in England. 2005, it was a 2-1 loss. 2009, it was a 2-1 loss. 2013 was a 3-0 loss. 2015 was a 2-3 loss. In 2019, they drew the series 2-2. Although they retained the urn in England after 18 years, they didn't win a series. So, 2023 gives these 5 players their very last chance of securing Ashes glory in England. They will play the 2025 Ashes in Australia, but 2023 in England, this is probably their last chance ever. But look at this famous rivalry, 356 tests played ever since 1877 all the way till 2021, 356 test matches. Australia have won 150, England have won 110. The series results are pretty close, 34 by Australia, 32 by England. But remember, Australia have achieved 3 whitewashes, 5-0 whitewashes against England. 5-0 in 1921 under Warwick Armstrong, 2006 under Ricky Ponting, 2013 under Michael Clarke. So, Australia have achieved the 5-0 whitewash thrice against England. England haven't done it. The last time they won 5 tests was way back in 1979 against Australia, 5-1 in the 6 test Ashes. But remember, that Australian team was weakened because of defections to the Kerry Packer unit. So, Australia have won more test matches. Series wise, if you look at it, England 32-34. The win-loss ratio is heavily tilted in favor of Australia. Now, the key numbers that I have pointed out in 2023 for Australia and for England. Australia not won a series in England since 2001. That is the major bone of contention that they have. If Australia are to truly become the world test champions, if they have to live up to that mark, they have to win a series in England and India. Because those are the two venues where they have never won a series for close to 15 years and counting now. England though, even they are also desperate because they have not been in possession of the Ashes urn since 2017 when they lost 4-0. And remember, when they had won it in 2015, it felt as if England would prolong the agony for Australia. But that has not happened. 6 years and counting, England have not held possession of the Ashes. Australia, on the other hand, they have won 10 out of the 15 tests that they have played against England in the last 6 years. 2017-18, 4-0 with a draw in Melbourne. 2019, you saw the draw at Lord's, but Australia won in Edgbaston and Old Trafford. England won in Leeds and at the Oval. Then in 2021, England escaped with the draw in Sydney, but Australia were comprehensive in Brisbane, in Adelaide, then Hobart, and then you look at it even in Melbourne. Scott Boland, remember the name, 6 or 7? Brilliant spell. So 10 out of 15 tests, Australia has won with 2 losses, and if you may say, looking at the situation, 2 losses have really been fantastic for England, and you've had 3 draws. But why are England considered to be the favourites this time around? Why do you think there is a new era in England? Because of Bazball. Only 2 tests have been lost in the Ben Stokes captaincy era. One to South Africa, one to New Zealand. But the New Zealand loss in Wellington was just by 1 run. Imagine had that wide been given to James Anderson, it could have very well been a tie. A glimpse of Bazball when they started in Edgbaston in 2022. So, Edgbaston is the venue where Bazball started. Now, Australia will face the full wrath of it today. Stokes' team is scoring at over 4 runs per over. You look at the 1999 to 2004 period when Steve Waugh was captain. At that time, Australia was scoring at 3.5. We thought that was revolutionary. This has gone up by even a bigger notch. England last lost a series at home. When was that? 2 years back. 2021 versus New Zealand when they lost the second test match. They drew at Lord's, but they lost the second test match. And so, in 2021, remember, New Zealand won the series and then they won the World Test Championship final against India. Now, if you have to look at the key matchups, you have to rely on only 4 key pivotal players in this. For Australia, Steve Smith, David Warner. For England, James Anderson and Stuart Broad. Remember, Anderson and Broad are the best new ball bowlers in the world. If you look at cricket history, they are one of the greatest in the business. Let's first look at Stuart Broad. 131 wickets in the Ashes against Australia. Shane Warne is above them, Glenn McGrath is above them, but Stuart Broad, as far as England is concerned, better than both them in many aspects. Look at how many times he's got rid of David Warner, 14. If Warner manages to play all 5 tests, can Stuart Broad break the record of 19 dismissals that Glenn McGrath effected against Mike Atherton? That could very well happen. But more than Warner, look at Broad's record against Steve Smith. 9 times he's dismissed him. And that is why Broad will hold the key in this Ashes if the conditions suit him. Remember, the plan is to prepare flat decks. Maybe it can nullify the swing. But remember, flat decks, England have found a way to win. Because we all criticize James Anderson, right? But if you look at his performances on flat decks, it happened in India, it happened in Pakistan. He was sublime. And that is why Anderson will hold the key for England even more so now. Remember, he missed 2019 because of a groin injury, a hamstring injury he had suffered. He missed the entire series. He just bowled 4 overs in Edgbaston. After that, Anderson then didn't play in most of the tests that England went to for Australia. So that was a big blunder. 112 wickets, he's got Warner out 10 times, he's got Smith out 8 times. So Broad and Anderson hold the key, because if you look at the bowling lineup that England have for this match, it's Broad, Anderson, Ollie Robinson, Ben Stokes and Moeen Ali. Remember, Jack Leach isn't there. So that's why the spin burden will have to be shouldered by Moeen Ali. 5 bowlers, kind of risky. Now, what are the problem areas? Australia's opening woes in England. Remember, in 2019, Marcus Harris and David Warner both struggled. 2015, at least you had Chris Rogers who was doing a good job, but at that point, Warner was struggling. And it is on Warner that I come to. 25 average in England, the second worst that he's had in his career, behind India. So 25 with no centuries in England, it's a damning indictment for David Warner. Last Ashes were majority in England. So remember, this squad, they might play their last Ashes series in England. I don't see most of the team members coming back for 2027. Remember, they'll be on the wrong side of 35, they'll be close to 40. Can you persist with the team in that sense? Looking at Australia and looking at the past, maybe they won't. But there are also problem areas for England. Remember, Jack Leach is not there, and that's why their main holding spinner is gone. Moeen Ali, out of the blue, is coming back after 1.5 years. When Stokes had messaged Moeen Ali that, are you up for the Ashes? He just replied, LOL. That was the mentality that he's in. Moeen Ali is primarily focusing on white ball cricket, but he's now come back in the red ball fold because Jack Leach isn't there. It's drawn up a big debate as to why on earth the other spinners in the county circuit are not getting their due. Why Moeen Ali all of a sudden? So many experts are not happy with it. Last 6 years record, as I had mentioned, they have won only 2 out of the 15 tests that they have played. So that is a big problem. Stokes' knee injury. Now remember, Ben Stokes is nursing a chronic knee injury which has forced him to retire from ODIs and focus only on tests and T20s. Now, Stokes, even if he's back to full fitness, in 6 tests he's just taken 2 wickets. So that is why Stokes' knee injury management is going to be a big issue in this 5-test series. Remember, from June 16th all the way till July end, you're compressing those 5 tests in 45 days. After that, August you're going to have the 100. So for the first time, June to July, the Ashes is over. When was the last time this happened? An Ashes test beginning in June and ending in July. It happened 50 years ago, 1972. That was the last time this had happened. Now, I'll just tell you a record of what is Australia's performances in all the venues. Remember, they are going to play in Edgbaston, Lords, Leeds, Old Trafford and Oval. Edgbaston. You may argue that they have a 0.66 win-loss ratio, but they actually won 4 games and have lost 6. And the last time they played there in 2019, Australia were the first team in 18 years to breach the Edgbaston Fortress. But look at Australia's record in Lords. It is staggering. 39 matches, 17 wins. Look at the win-loss ratio, 2.4. From 1934 since 2009, Australia didn't lose a single test at Lords. 75 years. Then they lost in 2009 and 2013, but bounced back with victory in 2015 and a draw in 2019. You remember this famous Jofra Archer, Steve Smith spell happened at Lords. Leeds, another venue where they have a very mixed record. 9 wins in 26 tests at a win-loss ratio of 1. It was contrasting because in 2009, Australia levelled the series thanks to a superb spell from Mitchell Johnson, Ben Hilfenhaus and Peter Siddle. England were bundled out for under 100. But then in 2019, you saw the Ben Stokes miracle. 135 happened at this very venue, Leeds. 2019 was the year of Ben Stokes. He could perform miracles. Similar is expected of him as captain this time around. Old Trafford, 31 matches, 9 wins at a win-loss ratio of 1.2. Remember, Steve Smith hit 211 and it was at Old Trafford where Australia retained the Ashes in 2019. So, it was a brilliant story indeed. You can see it in the opening sequence of the test documentary. You could see the visuals, the montage that happened at Old Trafford. That is the starting point. The Oval. Forever, if you look at it, Australia's main bogey has been the Oval. 39 matches, 8 wins, 0.47. Easily their worst win-loss ratio if you look at it in the entire of England. Maybe you can say to a certain extent Trent Bridge, but Oval, only 0.4. But remember, it was at the Oval where Australia won the World Test Championship against India. So that bogey will be disturbed. But if you look at England versus Australia at the Oval, last 50 years, only 3 wins. One in 1972, one in 2001, and the other in 2015. That's it. So England have a great record at the Oval. If you take them there, maybe Australia will buckle, because the last test of a very exhausting series, Australia might not be left with that much energy. So 3:30 p.m. IST, the epic contest begins. Australia versus England. It's going to be one of the best test series there, and one hopes Bazball is out in full flow. Australia counter that in dramatic style. What are the predictions? Too close to call. I don't know who will come out on top in this series. Maybe Australia hold the edge because they are high on confidence with the World Test Championship win. But remember, England in Bazball, totally different proposition altogether. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this video. We'll be back with more updates on sports today. Tap that bell icon so you know when we go live, and don't forget we are on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Thank you.